Family, what's up, family? What's up, beautiful people? So, this video, I want to give a potential truth when it comes to Masonry, Freemasonry, um, and just kind of give. Well, so I'm not a Mason, right? But there was a time in my life when, and maybe kind of still sometimes, I want to be, I want to practice, I guess. I don't really know because it's a secret society, so you don't really know what you're signing up for until you're in it, right? But wanting to be a part of basically any kind of group that's interested in exploring knowledge. That's something I'm very interested in. I have been for years, so no surprise there. And when it comes to being a spiritual person, one thing that I think will attract any spiritual person to Freemasonry is the idea of like Gnosticism, of wanting to go beyond the 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 veil, or just wanting to get deeper understanding, a better knowledge, and not beyond the veil into something you're not supposed to be. Although obviously, I'm going to assume a lot of Masons do that, but basically going beyond the veil into areas where it's hidden from you, or beyond the veil into areas where not everybody has access to, because truthfully there are some people that you just should not give certain information. You know what I mean? I mean, we all know it. Like, some people are better at one job than another. So, with Freemasonry, there's like this understanding that there's society, and then there's, like, I don't know, the 12, right? There's society, and then there's the 12 that's like, this is what y'all know. Y'all know about 10% of the truth, and we know maybe 15. You know what I mean? It's the same thing like with using more percentage of your brain. That's the goal for some scientists. It's just try to figure out how humans can use a higher percentage of their brain, and when, or if they have already figured out how to access a higher percentage of like brain use in one setting, I guarantee you they're not going to give that ability or whatever to everybody, right? So there's a lot of knowledge that goes with Freemasonry. So with a lot of the, research that I've done um, into Freemasonry, as much as you can when you're not a part of it, and then also just with spiritual understanding and with just Gnosticism, I kind of came to this realization. Um, I know I'm wearing a, I'm wearing like a Christian shirt, and I tell y'all I'm not a Christian, although yes, my parents literally named me Christian. I'm not a Christian in that sense, but my father's a pastor, so of course I always have a good old church T-shirt going on. But so it's just kind of funny that this lines up. But what I'm trying to say is, I feel like, one of the understandings that I've recently come to, and part of me is wondering if this is actually what it is. So if you know anything about like Solomon, and like the key of Solomon, right? And the demonology in which Solomon has was given by Archangel Michael. Solomon, when he prayed to God to, like, hey, help me basically rid people of the demons that are bothering them. If you don't know a lot about Solomon and like the key of Solomon and all of that, I'm not going to give an in-depth breakdown because I need to get to the bigger point of the story. But point is that Solomon, biblical Solomon, he has friends. They're dealing with demons. You know what I mean? And so he obviously is like, God, help me. He prays to God for help to help out his friends. And so God sends Archangel Michael with basically a code, so a key that allows him to. The key has emblems on it, sigils, if you will, um, that allow Solomon to capture and manage these demons. Um, and it's a very interesting take because, like, Solomon's story obviously is the baseline for a lot of I'm trying to think of the better word, but for a lot of like magi stuff, like magician type stuff, which, Jesus was a magician. So, magician, wizard, witch, like you want to get negative, but it's also positive, healer, you know what I'm saying? So basically, now with this ring, for one, this ring, and with this knowledge that Archangel Michael has given to Solomon to help him detain these demons that are messing with the villagers. Summarizing the story, guys. um, so one thing that I have just been really thinking about, and I feel like maybe this was obvious, but like when you don't know something and you just learn it, you're like, oh. So these two may have nothing to do with each other at all. But literally, Solomon, and this is a big thing, like it's a huge thing for people that are into occult, anything on the other side of the veil. Like, I'm going to assume there's no real Mason that doesn't know, like, Solomon and like the key of Solomon. To me, you're not a Mason if you don't even. But you know what? I don't know. I'm not a Mason, so maybe. But the point is that when Solomon is going around, like, rebuking these demons in the name of Jesus, but obviously it's kind of different because Jesus isn't a thing yet. So, as Solomon's going around and basically like Pokemon, literally being like, you demon, in the name of who knows, God, I don't know, and he casts like the ring at these demons. They get captured. Like he becomes Solomon um, is able to take control of like a voodoo doll. That's the best way to explain it. Like Solomon has like this ring that basically once he appoints like the energy of the ring to the demon, like he can control that demon like a voodoo doll. So basically he goes around, he's like you, and the demon's like, no, don't get me, but they get caught. And by caught, think of like Pokemon, I guess. So anyway, so he's taking these demons, like Solomon's been trying to build a temple for God, right? And so literally Solomon captures or detains, like a police officer detains these demons that he encounters. And this is a whole thing, guys. Like you can go read this historic archaeological, like you can go read all this. This is the story, okay? And it's ancient upon centuries upon times old. Like this story is historic. You know what I mean? Now, whether or not it's real is one thing. Obviously, I believe in it, but maybe not necessarily in the fantasy way in which some people, like, when you hear some sci-fi stuff, you see it as sci-fi. But some people will see some sci-fi stuff and understand, oh, they understand where the realness is mixing with the theatrics. It's like that. So basically, Solomon got these demons, and as he gets these demons, he's like, because obviously he asked God to help him, to help out his friends. So when God helped him capture the demons, the only best way, not the only, but the best way to punish the demons is to be like, now y'all got to help me continue to build my temple for God, right? That makes sense. Solomon's trying to build a temple, and there's things that's hard to do when you're trying to build a temple. And so he literally not employs, but he literally detains, and as their prison sentence, these demons are literally helping him build a temple. He has demons set up to move different rocks to certain places on the temple. There's certain things that none of the humans could do because they're too weak, they're not strong enough. But of the demon who can, think of like Nephilim, you know what I mean? Like some of these demons obviously have the strength of a demon. So some of these demons are on, heavy duty, and they're doing all these big stuff. He literally has, like a Pokemon, captured these demons and literally has employed them to build aspects of the temple that he's building for God. And the thing is, there's a whole like breakdown of the demons, where they came from, because I don't know why, but that was important. Like the genealogy, like, well, what demon family are you a part of? Like it's big, and it's honestly worth investigating if you're any kind of like, honestly, if you're any kind of like I'm spiritual. Obviously, if you're an occultish person, you already know. But if you're spiritual, it's just something to look into, because this is how I'm going to tie this together. So the Solomon story, which is huge, you know what I mean? It's a big thing, big deal. Where's my coffee? Ah, the Solomon story is a big thing. So Solomon goes around and literally employs these demons to help build his temple. So people probably already know this, but I'm saying this to say that in wanting to be, or wanting to be introduced into the possibility of becoming a Mason. Obviously, an Eastern Star, because girls just can't be Masons. The point is they can't be Freemasons. You know what I mean? The point is it's all Masonry, but the organization. So in wanting to be an Eastern Star, um, I've been trying to figure out. But there's always, because with my religious background, there's always this little bit thing. There's always this idea of, in the back of my head, what's so bad? Because when you're somebody who believes that knowledge is power, and when you're somebody that's yeah, not everybody needs to not everybody needs to know everything. But I promise you, God won't let you learn stuff that's not good for you. And if you do happen to learn something that's not good for you, it probably won't sit well with your system, and maybe you'll go commit suicide or something. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a way to. There's repercussions for being in rooms you can't be in. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't know. But the point is that with Freemasonry, their story, right? The way the Freemasons explain, well, what is Freemasonry? The very basic level that a Mason will explain how the name Freemasonry came about is because back in the days of church building, literally back in the days of old, and when building churches and stuff like that, Masons are people that work with stones, like construction workers. A Mason is a stone worker, and there's a very particular way that you go about, not very, but yeah, there's a very particular way that a Mason, and we're talking about old day Mason, so there's a very particular way that a Mason who works at a masonry, which is stonework, would go about cutting blocks, and setting up the stuff that they're doing, so when they go to the church, and how they're going to do the brickwork, how the construction workers would go about it. So the very basic idea of the Masons is okay, so you're a Mason, and y'all practice Freemasonry. What does that mean? Again, going back into the day. So there was unions, right? Masonries, which is these stone companies, stone workers had unions. And so each masonry group was its own little union. And so that's also how they came to be oh, to use popular language, I'm an Eastern Star, or I'm an elk. It's just the union they were a part of. I'm not getting too deep, but there's just a union that they were a part of, let's say, back in the day. So it's you have different organizations, you have different unions. This is the basic answer that they'll give you, and it's, if you're not a part of it, this is as much as I know. You know what I mean? So basically, the Masons are we are they're doing a play on words when they say masonry. They're well, so the thing is that back in the day when they had the construction workers, that they needed help building the church, they worked at a masonry, like I said, which is where you cut stones and all of that. And so if you're working at a masonry, you're called a Mason. Now, there's a very particular way Masons do their stone work. When you obviously become a veteran at masonry, they would call you a Freemason. And a Freemason is a masonry that basically can come in and do the stone work to their free will. Because it's almost when you've been doing a job for so long, you become more efficient at it. So now you don't have to do the textbook way. Obviously, you're still going to do the best way, but you don't have to do the textbook way that you learned in your first 3 years. When you get really good, you learn better technique because your skills are better. And so when you were a mason working at a masonry, um, let's say the supervisor is going to be a Freemason. You see what I'm saying? Like the supervisor is going to be a Freemason, which means he doesn't do a set way of masonry. He can do them all. He's free to practice masonry in any way he wants because he has good skill. So when Freemason, the secret society, came about, they came about, so you know how the story goes. This is the story they share. They adopted that language, explaining how they called themselves, they say that they practice masonry, making it a play on words in which, while real masons are doing stonework, uh, um, occult masons, secret society masons are doing self work. And so a mason is doing not stone work, but self work. And when you become a Freemason, what you're doing is you're using all avenues of Gnostic, of knowledge to, to self develop. That is the story that they give. So when you ask somebody and they clearly know you're not a Mason and you're like basic level, and also not even like basic level. This is the story that they put out there. All the stuff that's really like well, what do they really mean, right? What are they really saying? That's obviously something you're gonna have to figure out if you become a Mason. But I'm bringing this up because when I when I really thought about it, it made me wonder, and this could be true. Maybe this is obviously like, duh, Christian. I don't know though. I'm just learning. But it makes me wonder, like, wait a minute. So Freemasons literally adopted this term from the Mason workers, the workers of, like, you know, like the Catholic Church, like back in, well, Catholic is, you know, but yeah, like the church construction workers, like they are. And the thing is, the whole point was that they're building like churches, because again, masonry, like a secret society occult masonry, is all about Gnosticism, which plays back into religion, which is why in order to be a Mason, you have to have some type of belief in a higher power. You cannot believe that you are the end all be all, because then where else can you develop, and in what way? How? We're not saying that we all have to believe the same thing, and I wonder why. Why don't all Masons agree that we all believe in God or Buddha? They don't. They don't. Masons are very much like, you just got to, on the basic level, right? You got to believe in a higher power. And what I thought to myself is, maybe like the whole idea of like when Christians are harping on like how masonry, the secret society, is so bad, it's so bad, outside of like the obvious bad stuff that you hear about, you know, bad Masons. There's bad everywhere, good and bad everywhere. So obviously bad Masons that are out there killing people for selfish gain, we know that's bad, right? But maybe when Christians are going off on, like, you know, why masonry is bad, is because maybe they're talking about masonry at its most foundational level is literally a bunch of men that came together and adopted a Masonic, and when I say Masonic, a stonework mentality or hierarchy based off the masonry, so the church construction builders. And if you have people that are literally being like, these random people out here that are just doing stonework, let's change that, or let's use that, or let's grow from that and work on ourselves. Already we're talking about a secret society, so an aspect of this is occultish. An aspect of this is going to be magicianal, magi-like, wizard-like, witch-like. And so when you think about it, these Masons, in a sense, if they're talking about Freemasonry, what if the truth is that, yes, the Masonry in the church time was real, but what if what they're not telling us? What if what they're not telling us is, we aren't talking about Catholic church building. That's what we tell you. What we're really talking about is the demonic building of Solomon's temple for God. What if what we're really saying when we talk about Masons is we're really talking about the demons, each Pokemon that Solomon, and like I said, there's a whole breakdown. You can go read the demon, his name, where he's from, what job he had building the church. Literally Solomon planned it all out. Okay. So what if Freemasons are really like, what we're not telling you is we're not talking about Catholic Church Masons. We're actually talking about the demons that were building the church, like the temple. Apologies. The demons that were assigned to build aspects of the temple for God. And so, what if Masons really what if it's really built on, like when they say like well, you, because again, Masons at its basic level, you have to believe in something higher than yourself. What if the reason why it's so open book is because if, as a Mason, the demon that you follow could be I have a list with their names, but Orneus, I think Orneus was the first one. So what if the demon that you follow is Orneus or whatever, right? If I'm saying the name correctly. But then you have another Mason who the demon that he follows is they have some interesting names, these demons. So um, I'm just gonna say Bob. What if this guy follows Bob, but this guy follows Orneus? So it's like the and again, when Solomon captured like a Pokemon these demons and assigned them to build aspects of the temple, when he captured these demons, he asked them their genealogy. He asked them, "Where are you from?" What? And these demons they have answers. I'm from this lineage and this and from this star system. Like whatever. It's a big deal. So what if a Mason really is like, yeah, we're not talking about Catholic church builders. That's just what we tell you. What we're really talking about is the demons that was building the temple of God. And when you are a Mason, and when it's invitation only, or like you have to be born into it. Because again, genealogy. What if Freemasonry, the secret society, is really just a continuation of the bigger play on the demonology that Solomon captured and took very detailed notes on? What if a Mason is really just somebody that's like, I am invested in this demon, and he was assigned this aspects of Solomon's temple, and so as his lineage, I'm also assigned an aspect of a temple, making me a Mason. I also do temple work. I do self-temple work, but I do temple work because my forefather, the demon Orneus, you know what I mean? Anyways, I hope I'm explaining this well. I feel like if you got to this video just on the simple fact of it saying masonry, you probably have an idea of what I'm talking about already. But I bring this up simply because I always wanted to be a part. Like I was in the military. I was in sports. I'm a community person, and I'm family oriented. I'm a community person. So when I've really got like for the last 7 years, as I've gotten more invested into like Gnosticism and just like spirituality and like like history. Well, I've always been a history kind of person, so actually, but as I've gotten deeper into it, I've wanted to. I was always like, wow, I really hope one day I run into an Eastern Star and she's like, you know what? I like you. You ever thought about being an Eastern Star? Or however it goes. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm studying one day and next thing I know, I'm studying with an Eastern Star. I don't know. I didn't think that part out. But the point is that I always had a desire. And I'm talking about this now because obviously if you want to be a Mason, you don't talk about it, right? But I'm talking about it because when I think about the potential for Masons to be an extension of the demons that Solomon captured like a Pokemon, when I think about Freemasonry being a play on the lineage of those demons, and it's not far-fetched at all. It's actually very possible, if not obviously possible, when I think about that, I'm not in any way interested in associating myself with a demon or a daemon. That's not my thing. As a spiritual person, I'm only trying to associate myself with, like what you would consider high vibrational. And I say like consider because some people don't even know what that means. So, but literally higher, like on a higher frequency. I'm interested in stuff that's like I don't want to hold myself back. And the thing about anything on a lower frequency, and if it's too low, you get into that demonology territory. It's a there's a hindrance. You can only like when you can only go as far as your frequency. And so negativity, which is a demon becomes a demon instead of an angel when it has negativity associated with it. It's all on the other side of the veil. A demon could be an angel. They were, right? But now they're demons because their frequency dropped. So I'm not trying to align myself with anything that has a demonic framework or a demonic foundation, and that's where it stops. There's, in the sense, because God created all good and bad, so demon and angels. In my opinion, in a sense, there's nothing terribly wrong with the beginnings of a demon because a demon can grow. His frequency can get higher. He can, when I say he, she, its energy, its masculine or feminine energy can become a higher frequency. And it can get into that angelic territory. Like it doesn't have to have low frequency and be a demon, right? But if the foundation of what somebody is practicing is demonology, the foundation is low. And then if you go on to be like, not only are we starting with a low foundation, we're starting with demonic, which is a low foundation, we are carrying that energy to, um, what's the word I'm looking for? We want to make something last long, to like we're carrying that energy to memorialize this demon. And so if you're memorializing a low frequency, obviously when you memorialize something, you're remembering it as is, which means if Freemasonry is based on the demons that were building the temple of God and their low vibration, and you're memorializing that, Freemasonry at its base is low. The frequency would be low because you're memorializing low frequencies. Or else you would become or associate or not memorialize demonology. Again, going back to Freemasons, in a sense, are just trying to practice, like they're just trying to practice really magician type behaviors. You know what I mean? That's what they're doing. And going back to again, Jesus was a magician. He was a healer. Like if magician's too negative for you or whatever, he was a healer. Like he literally was using the elements to support people. So there, you don't have to, like Jesus obviously isn't associated with demons. So if you're a Mason and you want to be high vibrational, you shouldn't call yourself a Mason. If you want to be high vibrational, you should disassociate from Masonry. Obviously, if Masonry really is tied to the demonology that's of Solomon, you should not associate yourself with that category, that name, because you're going to be stuck at that lower frequency. And so for me, that's my take. It's like I don't think I want to be a Mason if that's where if that's your foundation is one thing. It can suck. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like knowledge, sometimes the foundation is not always the best. Like sometimes you gotta build, and you know what I mean? But if you're memorializing a low frequency, which is these demons, if you're memorializing these demons, like what? You're setting yourself up for low vibrational failure, or well, in your case maybe progress. Like if you want to coast at a low vibration and just really build on the negativity, that's what you would be doing. So if those two are tied together, for me, I'm like, oh wow, I'm saying something because if there's anybody else out there who's interested in Freemasonry, consider that Freemasonry might, even though they introduce it as like, well, we based ourselves on the Masons that were working to construct, the churches of old. Consider that the original church was the temple of God by Solomon, and he employed those demons to build it. Consider that if Masonry is based on Solomon's demonology, you may, well, I don't know you, so if that's what you want to do, fine. But if you're more interested in high vibrational things, Masonry would not be the way to go. You do not want to associate yourself with a group that memorializes a low vibration. And that, in this case, that low vibration equaling demonology. There's tons of low vibrations, but I'm not going to memorialize that. What? The whole point of Gnosticism is to increase in knowledge. Why in the world would I want to associate? And I guess that's my thing now with any Mason. It's like, unless you're the Mason where you literally are a Mason because you were born into it. And so the truth is you really don't know anything, because sometimes like Masons that are born into Masonry, those are the ones that you learn more from, to be honest. I learned some stuff from the Masons that were born into it, and I think in myself, you shouldn't be telling me this, but they do, because they were born into it. They're all like, you know what I'm saying? They didn't get the rite of passage. The truth is that when you're born into things, sometimes you don't appreciate it. So like, unless you're born into it, to strive to be a Mason may not be the way to go. Because if it is based on those demons, as a true Gnostic, as a true spiritual person, you do not want to hinder yourself. You do not want to, typecast yourself into low vibrational energy. I hope that makes sense.